What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Disc Golf Nerd Plastic Podcast. In this episode, I have a guest. First time I've ever had a guest on the show. It worked out really well. I'm super excited to have Danny Lindahl join me for this episode. We kind of go into his personal background, building his own YouTube channel. You can find his channel in the description below on this video. He does a lot of form advice. So he is approaching instructional videos more from the throwing form and the technique side of things, which is really great. It's awesome that somebody's out there doing that sort of thing. It's the kind of thing that I don't feel comfortable doing myself. I don't feel like I'm knowledgeable enough or put the time in to be able to be an authority on that. So it's really cool to have somebody in the community who's doing that, helping people learn how to throw, and really dialing in their form, helping people achieve more consistency, more distance, and all the good things that go into having proper form. So yeah, big thank you to Danny for being part of the show. Hopefully I can continue to work with him in the future. We have a couple other ideas that we're kicking around. The interview will kind of just pick up as we started chatting. It was more or less a test run to see how this would work out, and I think it came together pretty well. We talked of all kinds of various different things about his new sponsorship with DD, some stuff about me, and we just ramble about plastic like we like to do here on the Disc Golf Nerd Plastic Podcast. So yeah, big thank you to Danny for being on the show. Check out his channel in the description below. If you're not already subscribed, please do that and keep in touch with him. Stay tuned. Hopefully we have some other stuff in the works you guys will see eventually. And thanks for listening, guys. I'll check you later. Cheers. I'm stoked, man. This is going to be fun. Hopefully we can make something happen with this.
This is great.
I was definitely glad that you were down to work something out. Like I said, I've been really impressed with you. Just been crushing it lately, man. The view counts coming in are really impressive, and I'll be happy.
I was really surprised.
Happy to work with you, and it's pretty cool. So you got picked up by DD, huh?
Yeah, that was a few months ago. I messaged Robert a long time ago, and right a few months after, like a month or two after I started making the videos. And I said, what can I do to give myself the best chances to get on DD? I didn't want to be like, what can I do to get on the team, or so if I do this, then I deserve this, or anything like that. I just said, what can I do to give myself the best chances to put myself out there the best? Because there's always going to be more deserving people.
Right.
But he said, just keep making the videos and keep helping people out. And I did. And then a while later, I got a Facebook message from him asking me about it, and then he gave me a phone call, and we talked about it for a while, and then I'm on the team.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, Robert
really cool.
Seems like a really cool guy too. Any interactions I've had with him, he just seems like a really good dude. I like him on Disc Golf Answer Man. I think he brings a lot of good experience and knowledge to the table. He just seems like a solid dude for sure.
Oh yeah. Anytime I talked to him at the Disc Golf Experience. He was really nice there. He gave some good advice for sure. Nice.
Right on, man. That's pretty cool. What were you already throwing a Trilogy bag, or?
Well, there's it's like an elaborate fan club. It's called Team Trilogy.
Right.
It's basically a Facebook group that kind of blew up into something bigger. It's a club, I want to say. It's a group of people, and you if there's certain things you have to do to be on the team. You have to throw all Trilogy. You have to make an in the bag video, and you have to submit an application, and you have to be a current PDGA member. And if you're on Team Trilogy, then you have to throw an all Trilogy bag. And so I thought that was fun. I wanted to be a part of a bigger community because the community in Little Rock isn't, I don't know, super well entwined. It's kind of the different clubs are sort of separated.
Okay. And that's where
so I want to be part of something bigger. Yeah, I'm in Little Rock.
Okay, cool.
And then I was part of Team Trilogy, and so I was already throwing all Trilogy. I was actually throwing all Dynamic, but that's just for fun.
Right. Okay. Sweet.
So I'm really curious. What do you throw? Can you real quickly running through your bag? What do you do? I know you throw magnets, a compass, and a Fury, but
I'm almost all Trilogy and Discraft right now. The only other disc in my bag currently is the G-Star Wombat. It's a super situational disc for me that kind of flies like one of my super beat-in soft magnets, but just farther with more glide. It's got a ton of glide and no fade on it whatsoever. So if I need to just get something to stand up, like with a tailwind or something like that, and just carry dead straight down the line, it works well. And it's also nice for, like, if I got a really wacky, like a patent pending or something like that, where I really can't put a very good pull on it. It doesn't take a lot of energy to get it to go, and it always will hold straight. So I got that in the bag. So I putt with jawbreaker magnets. I throw soft magnets for a lot of approaches. Then it goes to caltrops. I have a hard caltrop or a opto caltrop for like overstable. I just put in the bag, but it's pretty beefy for me. Like overstable short range approaches. And I have a soft caltrop that's just won't turn over. It won't flip on me very much at all, and I can throw it about as hard as I want to, especially on approaches and stuff. It'll just go real straight for layups. Then I throw compass. The compass is probably my go-to disc. I'm a huge Ricky fan. It's no secret on the channel that I'm a big Rick fan. Anybody listening to this probably knows that already. And then, so I have a few of those in the bag. I just put the Gobi in the bag. Anthony sent me one of those to review, and I really like that. It's kind of like a faster compass. Then I have the anchors after that for the overstable mid-range. And then gets to the Fury for a lot of different understable utility shots. And then I throw Thrashers for my Discraft for distance, like hyzer flip distance. And then the Trespass probably might go to overall. I have a couple of air trespasses, and I have I just put a new the custom DGN stamped air trespass in the bag, so that's pretty sweet. It's pretty stable too. That one it's like 159 or so, and it's actually about as stable as my other Lucids. Then I have an old pre-Sweden one that I've been throwing for years that I really like, and I have five backup pre-Sweden Lucids laying around too, just ready to go in when I need them.
Oh man, that's crazy.
Yeah, and then I found most of them at the used rack at the Disc Golf Depot. It was one of my sponsors, the local shop here, and I picked them up for like $8 or $7-8 each. Like they just that's regular awesome. Off the rack, and then I have, I think that's it. Oh no, I have a Frost Triple X for just pure meat hook, overstable shots that I really, really want to finish hard left. And
I missed that. What's the last disc?
The Frostline Triple X.
Triple X, okay.
Yeah, Latitude Triple X. Yeah, that thing is just super, super beefy. I had a Felon for a while, and I actually didn't find it quite beefy enough for me, which was kind of weird because I don't have a big arm, and I throw a lot of like hyzer flip type shots, but the Triple X is super meat hook and ultra consistent. But yeah, that's about it.
Have you thrown a Criminal?
I have not. No, I have.
They are beefy.
I have a Fortress that I just got to test and review, but I did not. I haven't thrown it yet, and I haven't tried out the Criminal. What are some of your go-tos?
Well, I like to say I have a simple bag, but I really don't. Generally, I'm throwing Defenders, Felons, EMAC Truth, and a Warden. Okay. I putt with a Judge, but Moonshine Warden off the tee is really what a great driving putter. It'll just kind of, whatever angle you throw it at, it's going to hold. But the Moonshine is a little bit more stable, so it's got a little bit of fade on it. The EMAC Truth, I have one that I've had since they released a year and change ago at the GBO. So that one actually holds Anheuser pretty good, and then I've got a Moonshine that's overstable. I have a Justice. I have two Justices. I have a Soft Justice. That's a fun disc to throw. It sticks on everything.
I thought about getting one of those, because that's exactly what I would have used it for too. Yeah, if you need to just throw like a spike that's just going to dump and stick, like that's probably the perfect disc for that. Yeah, nice.
There's a shot at Bell Park over in western Arkansas. It was I played in a B tier a few months ago, and there's a shot it's like 115 feet with like 30-foot drop in elevation, and there's just a big bushy tree in the middle. So you've got to throw either a hyzer or a flick around the tree. And the wind was whipping, and we had no idea which direction it was going because it was swirling on the way this course is. It was swirling there. So I just threw that Soft Justice pretty much vertical right over the tree, and it dropped right next to the basket both rounds.
That's awesome.
It's such a good disc.
Yeah, I remember checking out the Lucid Justice right when it came out, and that thing is just ridiculous. It's definitely too, like, the anchor is plenty beefy enough for me for most shots, especially the opto. Like, I have a max weight opto. I kind of like the retro ones a lot. The retro ones actually have, like, almost like an overstable, like, DX rock type vibe, because they have the beaded mid-range and they have that similar kind of feel. Although I will say, I think that Latitude legitimately makes the best baseline. Like, the retro prime baseline plastic is really nice stuff. Like, I throw a Prime Trespass, and that thing started out really overstable, too. Like, it started out quite overstable, probably more than most of my Lucids, and then it's broken in a little bit, but I only really throw it for certain occasions, but the grip and the feel of it, I really like it. I think it's a good plastic especially for the money. But, yeah, the anchor seems to be plenty beefy enough for me. I don't have the arm really to need a Justice per se, especially, like I said, the max weight optos are pretty overstable for me.
Yeah. Well, the thing about a Justice is it skips and it doesn't glide. So if you're throwing a shot where you're worried the wind might like get underneath your anchor and lift it and carry it off or something like that, the Justice is going to go straight down at that point.
Right.
Or if you have a low ceiling, it's going to flare. Everything, it just gets this big flaring skip. If it's the Lucid.
That's cool.
So it's a situational disc. I definitely don't throw it every round, but it's the kind of thing where when you need it, it's like, boy, I'm glad I have that disc in my bag.
Sure,
I'm sure you can get the same shot out of your Triple X though.
Right, that's basically why I have the Triple X. Exactly, it's for those kind of situations where it's like, I'll throw it maybe once a round, maybe not. Maybe I'll go a couple rounds without throwing it at all. But when you need it, it's there, and it does the same thing every single time. And there's no guesswork in the Triple X. Like, throw it as hard as you want. It's not flipping over. It's gonna fade strong. It's not gonna glide. Like, it's just got that same thing going on all the time with it. So I really like that. So is it windy there a lot in the courses that you play?
No, not usually. Most of the courses I play are pretty wooded and very tight fairways.
Okay.
So Burns Park is my home course. Burns has two courses, a blue course and a red course. The blue course it's got probably a lot of, it's got like 300 to 450, 500 foot holes. I don't have 500, it's 480 I think is the longest hole, but it's fairly long holes, but most of them are shaping shots through trees.
Right.
There's never a hole where you just get to unload on one. Which is kind of good in a sense, but it's also really frustrating.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm good at. I'm good at hitting lines, and I've got a forehand and a backhand because of that. Because this course was designed. The original design for this course was by Steady Ed.
Okay.
So it's been in the ground for a while. I mean, it's moved around. I don't know if any of the holes are still the same, but that's sort of the era that the course carries with it. Is that there's a forehand hole here, there's a backhand hole here, forehand hole here, backhand hole here. Here's a line you have to throw, you have to hit it. Very, it's fair, but it's demanding.
Right. So, like, I don't really have much of a forehand at all. Like, I'll occasionally throw like a get out of trouble, or like if an upshot really dictates that I throw a forehand, I might use throw the Caltra up around a corner or something like that for a gentle forehand. But in terms of forehand drives, it's not really anything I've ever developed. Maybe my form is just wonky on it, but it seems to kind of hurt my elbow and stuff when I try it a lot of the times.
Yeah.
And it's just not a comfortable motion for me, so I kind of don't really use it. But as somebody that does kind of throw backhand and forehand, do you have specific discs that you use only for forehand, or are you kind of more big germish where you'll throw almost anything forehand or backhand depending on the shot?
I tend to throw all my discs both ways because it's like only having half of a disc to me if I can't throw it forehand too. But I tend to favor more overstable discs for forehand. For most shots, I have a blue Fusion Felon it's a little bit beat. I wouldn't say it's flippy, but it's got a little bit of turn on it, and that's I can work it in the woods pretty good. I'll throw it backhand if I need to, but generally that's a forehand disc. Or the Criminal makes a really good forehand disc. There's discs that I sort of throw more often forehand than backhand, but I can throw them both ways.
Okay, nice. That's cool. I feel like that's what kind of things go into like your decision between one or the other when you're like facing a shot? Is it more about like the finishing, like the way you want the disc to finish, or is it more about the flight out of the hand?
Are you talking about disc selection or forehand versus backhand?
Yeah, like if you could throw, basically if you could throw a turnover or a forehand, like which situations will you do each one? You know, like what kind of factors lead into that decision?
If it's a left to right shot and it's less than 300 feet, I'm always going to throw the forehand.
Okay.
Because the hyzering into the ground is going to be a lot more consistent. Because if you think about an ante, if you get the angle off just a little bit,
right,
you're suddenly gliding too far right, or you're digging into the ground.
Sure.
And that can mean 20 feet of difference, which isn't a big deal, but if you scale it up for more distance or something like that, it can really get to be a big difference.
Right, and also if you don't get it to turn as much as you want to, you have it fade out, where if you're playing the hyzer of a disc on a forehand, it's always going to have that fight. It's always going to fight to the natural, finish. Nice. That makes sense.
It's not going to care as much about the wind either.
Right. That totally makes sense for sure. So what was like your motivation when you started doing like some of the form videos and stuff that you do on your channel?
Well, I have videos that are really old from I think a year or so ago, and it was I was on Reddit. I browsed the disc golf subreddit a lot. There was a form critique, and nobody had commented anything, so I wanted to jump in and help out. And I thought there were two general schools of thought that people have about throwing that are wrong. So I made two videos to sort of cover that. One of them's in my kitchen, and the other one's out in the front of some cars in a driveway. And they're just me rambling for like 7 minutes in front of the camera. But I would share those out to people, and I tried to do that, and those actually picked up some traction over the years. That's one of my most popular videos. It's called "How to Correctly Time a Disc Golf Throw" or something like that. And it just doesn't have good production value at all, but it's really popular. That's why I started making it a few years ago. And then in December, I think it was. Yeah, December, I was taking a class for the fall semester, and it got out. And it was like the next day that I would have had class, and I was off work, and I was sitting there thinking I didn't have anything to do because I didn't have my class. So I thought I'll make a video about footwork, because I always see people seem to mess up footwork a lot, and I think it'd be a good video to have out there. So I started making that. And I downloaded a free video editor, smashed it together, and lots of people really liked it. I got a lot of views on that one.
Nice.
And so I moved on from there.
Nice. Yeah, that's pretty much... I kind of started with an in-the-bag video, and then there were a couple of concepts like difference between like an understable disc, overstable disc, and basic grips and stuff like that, which I didn't really see a lot of people teaching people about. And as I kind of... And that was years ago at this point. I think I've been doing my channel for maybe 5 years or so. And, as I was trying to kind of flesh out some of that stuff and figure it out myself, when I did figure it out, I figured I would just try to pass it along best I could, And some of my old videos are, speaking of poor production quality, I mean, none of the stuff I post has, like, any real production quality to it, but I guess the information is valid enough that it at least worked, and now the reviews have kind of like taken over the show at this point. But that was always that's kind of just something I came up with because there's always content that I can make. If I'm going to review discs, there's always a new disc, there's always an old disc that I could go check out or whatever. So that's kind of where I started with that. So what motivates you to continue doing it? Like, do you just want to get yourself out there? Is it more about just trying to help people understand the game, or what kind of motivates you to keep the ball rolling?
It's the response I get from the community is really cool. Like the pretty much every video I put out, I always say you can message my page if you want form critiques, and I get probably 5 or 10 of those a week. Which is, it takes a while for me to get back to it because I work full time and I get home lots of times and I just go straight to bed. But I usually sit down for an hour about a week and type up all these form critiques for people. But everybody says you've done great things for my shot. You've added 100 feet to my throw. You've added lots of consistency. People recognize me at tournaments. The response I get from the community is really cool.
Yeah.
And it's and knowing that when I started out, a lot of the information was drills, but it was longer videos. They were like 9-10 minutes long, and it was about a drill, and it was talking about how to do the drill and not how to throw the disc.
Right.
That's what was really frustrating for me when I was beginning, because I could do the drills really well, but I couldn't translate that to throwing a disc. So I try to keep my videos to disc golf.
Right.
I don't talk about starting a lawnmower. I don't talk about snapping a towel. I talk about this is how to throw the disc.
Right.
Because I think that information isn't out there.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. I like that you're definitely to the point with it, and there's not a lot of fluff there. You just get right to the point. You impart the information, and you kind of move on. I definitely like that aspect of it. So, just so anybody listening to this knows, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you if they wanted you to check out their forum?
I have an athlete page on Facebook. It's not my personal page. I kind of tend to keep towards people that I know and stuff like that. But I have an athlete page where I post everything disc golf goes there. So if you wanna keep in touch with me there, that's the way to do it.
Nice. I think I need to check that out. I'm not sure I knew that either. Honestly, I need to check that out. That's cool. All right, cool. So people can send you a PM on that.
Yep.
Nice.
The best way to do it is to film from your left side if you're right-handed, so I can see the disc like in front of you as it's coming. And in just one throw is all I need, and in slow motion works best.
Okay, cool. And should people be trying to throw like max distance, or just like a 60%, just a smooth pull, or what would give you the best idea of how they're doing?
Usually pretty close to max distance. Like not a 360 or something like that, but like 80%, a decent chunk.
Okay.
Is usually pretty good, because that's enough that you switch over to trying to mash it instead of using good form.
Sure. Right, and part of the reason why I'm so stoked to work with you is that you're so effective at kind of breaking down that kind of stuff, and I get those kind of questions now and again, and I'm just not comfortable or like confident enough in my own form to be like telling other people how to throw. And people will tell me, hey, you should make videos about distance and whatever, and it's like, look, you guys are way better off going and checking out Paul Macbeth or like Will Shoestrick's videos. I tend to point people towards Will Shoestrick's instructional videos because I think
he's really good.
He's tremendous. And I say it a lot, but I'm not sure Will really gets the credit that he deserves for being seeing that dude throw in person is just ridiculous. Like, it's insane how far he throws the disc. And it's not like he's throwing like max like flex shots or whatever like on golf lines, so he'll get a disc to stand up and just fly for days. It's just really beautiful to watch. But so I tend to kind of point him in that direction, but I think that you're doing a really good job with that, and I think that would be a really cool way that I can kind of point people your direction if they kind of ever ask me about that kind of stuff. But one of the few things that I would tell people, and I did try to impart, is just like, don't try to kill it. You see so many people out there that really try to muscle up and they tense up and they really try to mash it. And you kind of have to put effort into trying. Like, you got to try hard not to try too hard. You know what I mean? Like, it's a difficult thing to be like, oh, I got to throw this long shot. Let me just concentrate on pulling back and going through my whole throw in a very smooth and concise way, to try to throw it really far, because it's kind of counterintuitive, but it really does work. And that's when I saw the best improvement in my game, is when I started to notice that, like, man, I'm just trying way too hard. I just gotta pay attention to throwing it correctly and letting the disc do the work, rather than really trying to like tense up and muscle it. You know what I mean?
I think the biggest, the best way I've found to phrase it is speed over power. If you're trying to like pound a nail into a piece of wood, you're not gonna come sprinting at it with the hammer waving above your head and you're gonna smash it with as much strength as you can. That's not gonna pound the nail into the piece of wood.
Right.
If you're trying to do that, you're gonna use force, but you're gonna be more fast and you're gonna be more accurate and direct with it.
Sure.
Rather than than like winding up and smashing it with your whole arm.
Right. It's kind of like if you watch like the UFC or boxing or anything like that. Like a lot of times the knockout punches are the ones that just hit on the right spot without a lot of excess movement. You know, the big wild haymakers often don't land in the first place. You know, and even if they do, it's not as likely to do damage as that clean left hook that hits you right on the chin in the right spot, you know? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's kind of a similar thing. Other than that, what are some of the most, like, common mistakes that you see people making out there?
Number one mistake has got to be footwork. That's a big reason I made the footwork video. Everyone turns their feet around backwards in their X step, or some point before then. But they point their feet backwards, so the toes are pointing away from the target.
Okay.
And this does a couple of things. It points your hips away from the target, which means as you bring your plant foot around, you're going to set it down in an open stance. And so you don't have mobility of your hips. It also puts your weight back over your heels, which prevents your legs from powering the shot, and you're not balanced because you're back over your heels. And it throws off your accuracy because you're spinning around backwards and then you're spinning around forwards.
Right.
And so the way to fix it is to keep your feet sideways and make your X step almost more like a shuffle step. It's like the same cadence of a crow hop in baseball.
Right.
Where it's just like a little skip, and you keep your hips lined up at the target. You keep your feet sideways, and that's gonna keep your weight moving in line with the shot. It's going to be a lot more powerful there.
Who would you say is like a prime example? Like when you said that, I kind of pictured Johnny McRae. You know how Johnny he always seems to be kind of sideways alongside the tee pad, and he doesn't really have a lot of twisting in his motion. Would that be a good example of what you're talking about?
Of a good shot?
Of a good like good footwork and like not turning your feet away like Okay.
Johnny McRae, pretty much anybody who's throwing 500 feet is doing that.
Right.
Right. I mean, I'm not throwing 500 feet, but I'm working on doing that. Devin Owens he's a lefty, but he doesn't actually cross his feet. He doesn't actually have an X step. He just skips.
Right. He has that like little it's very similar to. Doesn't he have a baseball background too? Devin, like growing up.
I don't know off the top of my head.
I thought he did. I thought he maybe did, but yeah, I know what you mean. Though he doesn't really do an X step. I believe they brought that up on Central Coast recently on maybe World's coverage or something like that, where they were following him. They were saying how he throws really super far. I mean, dude crushes.
Yeah,
and he doesn't really do a true X step at all.
But it works for him because it gets his left foot or his right foot. I do that all the time. I get him flipped for lefties. He gets his right foot, his back foot set up in the right position to shift his weight forward.
Right.
And that's really all an X step is doing, is just getting your foot in position.
Okay, cool. Other than footwork, what would be the next thing that you think people make the most mistakes with?
People get their shoulders in front of their elbow a lot. It's a big reason why I made the elbow video last week. I want to say 2 weeks ago maybe, where I'm just yelling about elbows the whole time. It's a really dumb video. It sounds even dumber when I describe it like that. But people tend to turn their shoulders because they're focusing too much on rotational movement rather than linear movement, like in a line. They're trying to spin to throw rather than pull the disc straight. So they get their shoulders ahead of their elbow, and it pins the upper arm against the chest here, and that makes the arm swing away from the body. And that's one of the types of rounding. Okay. So from your reach back, rather than twisting your shoulders, you want to pull the disc in tight to your body.
Right.
And that'll get your elbow out front, and then your elbow opening is the biggest mover that throws the disc. And so that will, getting your elbow bent and getting it in front of you, getting the disc in front of you will load that in. That'll help adding a lot of power.
Sure. Nice. Good stuff, man.
But those are probably top two. People aren't running into their shot as much. When I first got videos, I got lots of people who would start off sprinting from the back of the tee pad and run into their shot. But that's kind of people are starting to understand that that's not ideal. So that's not as popular as it used to be.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things where it's like an advanced technique that once you have everything dialed, and like there are guys that can do that effectively, but they have everything else dialed in so well that they can make that work. Where the average,
and they don't have to.
Yeah, they don't have to, but it's it's that like little cherry on top to try to put the extra heat on it. Like I think of like Nico or somebody like that. He'll do like a really long run up. Nico can stand right on the T-pad and do a short X step and throw plenty far. But when he's really trying to get on it, he can do that. But he's got his form so dialed in that it's not going to throw him off as much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and he's practiced the regular shot, so he has muscle memory from that he can just adapt to the 360 or whatever.
Sure.
Same with people like Simon, or sometimes Paul will start off a few steps back from the T-pad and take a little jogging step forward.
Right.
And that's what people see, and they crush them when they do that because it just adds a little bit of extra momentum coming through your hips and into the shot. So it does add distance, but you have to have a correct weight shift to start out with to do that.
Right.
And that's nearly impossible to do for most people.
You know who like never seems to do that is Ricky. Have you ever seen Rick like run up and then go into his X step? Like usually, maybe he'll add an extra step in there, but usually he's compact and on the T-pad, does his X step and just hits it. You know.
He usually just does his 3 steps. He does his right, his X step, and his brace. His footwork is one of the faster ones though. Like if you set everybody up and said they had to throw a 400-foot hyzer, Ricky's footwork would probably be a little bit quicker than everybody else's.
Yeah.
Not as quick as Paul doing the big run up, but I think because his shot is naturally a little bit quicker, he doesn't have to so much.
Interesting. I remember one of the things that helped me with the X step was doing the small step with your left foot to kind of set it up. Are you an advocate of that, or do you think that exacerbates like the issues with footwork?
Do you mean like stepping onto the T-pad with your left foot?
Yeah, like just to begin to start my run up, the first thing is a short step with my left foot, right? Then I step out with my right, and then I go behind for the X step. You know what I mean? I've noticed that helped me kind of get the footwork dialed in, and I've kind of passed that on to a couple people that just had trouble setting it up in the right way, and it seemed to help. Do you think that's a good thing, or do you think people should just start without that?
I think it doesn't really matter. Okay. I think if it helps you, that's fine. If you're not doing it, it's not hurting you. But if it helps, it's great. As long as the last 3 steps are really all that's important. Right. You can do 20 steps before them, but the last 3 steps is really all that needs to be set. Sweet.
Sounds good, man. You have any topics that you can that you wanted to talk about?
Oh, I'm interested in your game. I haven't. You review a lot of discs, but I don't really know. I don't really know much about how you play. I know you have that one round recap, the podcast that I listened to today. But it was like 3 podcasts ago where you're talking about your round.
Oh yeah. I occasionally do that where I'll just kind of run people through stuff, and if I felt like I learned anything or could pass anything on to folks, I'm like. I think in some ways I'm kind of good for the role that I've kind of settled into in YouTube, because I kind of represent like probably a relatively large cross-section of the game of folks who understand it and like are reasonably competent, but I don't throw super far. I'm not as consistent as I'd like to be. I'm not like pro level by any means, you know what I mean? But I do understand. I feel like I have a good understanding of the game, and I feel like I know how to work my discs well. And playing up to my potential, I feel like I can play pretty well, you know, on any given day. But I'm pretty much a casual player. Like I don't do tournaments or anything like that. I've played a couple of like super casual events, but for the most part, I just like playing with friends and stuff like that. And these days, I end up spending a lot of time just field testing plastic and that sort of thing. Keep the ball rolling with the reviews, because I'm up to like over 150 molds reviewed as of right now, which is that's incredible. Kind of a lot. Again,
yeah, it's like an encyclopedia scrolling through your page.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. So at this point, I'm kind of just trying to build like a database that people can reference.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you've got.
Yeah, and when I watch, part of the issue with it is that my form and my ability has changed over the years, and also my ability to like talk on camera and not sound like a complete goon has gotten better as well. So some of those old videos I don't feel like are terribly representative anymore, and maybe they don't translate as well as I'd like to. Maybe I need to update some of the more older reviews, just because I understand my own form, and I definitely throw farther now, and I might be able to represent the disc a little bit better. But I think part of the problem with a lot of disc reviews and stuff is that people try to act like, there's a lot of acting like discs aren't individuals, you know what I mean? Because anybody who's experienced with plastic knows that there's a lot of fluctuation, even between two discs of the same plastic type, same mold or whatever. They can vary. And I think a lot of times people don't represent that, and they try to, and I'm sure I'm guilty of it too, where you try to act like every disc is going to be just like that one, you know what I mean? So I try to give people more of a sense of how it's going to feel and a basic idea of how it's going to fly, rather than be like, this is how it flies, you know what I mean? Because it changes. I'm sure my perception of the stability of disc would be probably considerably different than yours, and would be considerably different than a beginner's, you know what I mean? So I try to represent more of an overall thing. But yeah, in terms of my playing, I like to throw putters a lot. I don't play too many super long courses other than Mile and MacGyver, and Pier Park's got some long shots. I don't play too many courses that have really long, a ton of really long shots. I like wooded golf too, like Pacific Northwest woods golf tends to be a lot of elevation and that sort of thing, which I really like. I'm a big fan of that. And I like to throw putters off the tee quite a bit. I've been an advocate of that for a long time, trying to tell people that not to be afraid to throw slower discs off the tee, and if that's what the shot dictates, and that sort of thing. But yeah, I throw a decent amount of relatively flippy plastic, but I do like to throw on a hyzer, and I'm much more of a finesse thrower where I'm just trying to release on the line. I'm not trying to really smash on anything too crazy. How long have you been playing overall? Did you start young?
I played. I'm 22 now. I've played 4 years, so I started right after I graduated high school.
Oh, okay, nice.
So I haven't, in the scheme of things, I haven't really been playing that long.
No, definitely not. I mean, you said 4 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not much at all. I've been probably playing. I started playing disc golf right when I moved to Oregon, which was about 11 years ago.
Okay.
That's when I first started out. So, and for the first year or so, I played my first round ever, and I had no idea what I was doing. I was used to ultimate discs and stuff like that, which I had a decent amount of experience with. But yeah, I had a DX Valkyrie or something like that, and I had no idea how to work it. It was just way too tough to control for me for the first couple rounds, and which is part of why I advocate putters and mid ranges for beginners to start out on the right way with that. And I think I played the first time, and then I spent maybe a year without playing again, and then the next, or maybe half a year, then that next summer I really started to get hooked on it, and it really came when I started to learn what the discs were doing. It became so much more fun. So that's part of my mission on YouTube, is just to help people understand what they're doing out there, and to feel like what's going on. Because when you're out there and you're just throwing the disc and you really don't understand the physics of where it's going to go and how it's going to react to the throw, it's super frustrating. And I hate the idea of people going out there and being like, oh, let's try disc golf, and oh, here, Paul Macbeth, he world champion, destroyer disc, this sounds good, let me get one of these, and then you go out to a course and you try throwing that thing, and it goes nowhere for a beginner, and it just spikes left, and then they go, I don't get this isn't very fun, and that's the end of it. I'm just trying to hopefully help people avoid that pitfall, you know what I mean? That's kind of where I started with a lot of the instructional stuff, but I feel like I've kind of hit a wall with that in terms of, I don't know how much more I have to teach folks. I made a bunch of that content, and it's out there, and people still watch it. And occasionally I'll get a comment on something that I forgot I even had out there, oh, I forgot I even made this 4 or 5 years ago. But That's kind of why I keep doing the reviews and stuff, and then transitioning into the podcast, just to have an excuse to keep making videos for people because they keep subscribing for some reason. And yeah. So what's the name? The name of your channel is just your name, correct?
It's just my name. It's just Danny Lindahl. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I guess we could. You want to spell that real quick, just in case anybody listens to this?
Oh, yeah. Danny is just D-A-N-N-Y, and Lindahl is L-I-N-D-A-H-L.
Okay, cool. I wasn't sure if it was Lindahl or Lindahl, if it had the "ah" in there. I wasn't sure. I feel like I've heard it pronounced both ways.
It's Lindahl. I've gotten Lindahl a couple times, but
yeah.
It doesn't really matter. I think it's Swedish origin.
Okay.
Which makes it cool because Lat 64 is in Sweden.
Nice. Yeah.
But yeah, my heritage is very Scandinavian.
Right.
So that's why I'm very, very white.
Yeah, you look like it too. I'm sure anybody that sees you wouldn't be too surprised to know that for sure. I'm the one that nobody gets to see. You're allowed into the inner sanctum. You know that I'm that I'm a weirdo. Yeah. Anything else we wanted to talk about? So you got picked up by DD. Do you know those guys much at all? Have you gotten to meet Bobby and Emac and the crew over there much?
I went to GBO a few years ago. I don't even remember which GBO I went to. I think it was 2015.
Okay.
I think that was the first Glass One Open I went to. Anyway, it was, and I met Bobby. I met Eric, and but I was just like, I'm a fan. Will you sign my disc? Type thing. I don't think they remembered me at all.
Right.
No offense to them. They just get a lot of that week.
Oh sure. Yeah.
And I completely lost my train of thought just then. Oh, I'd sent some questions into Disc Golf Answer Man.
Right.
But I don't think. Yeah, I really hadn't met them very much until this last weekend at the Nissan Experience.
I think they've given you some shout-outs on the show, too, right? Didn't they tell people about your channel and stuff like that?
Since I started making the videos,
nice.
I follow, me and Emac are on Snapchat. I'll snap him every once in a while.
Oh, okay.
I forgot he was on there. He shouted out my Snapchat, which was which was really funny because my Snapchat's just stupid.
That's one I haven't gotten into. I haven't done the Snapchat yet. I'm still catching up on Instagram. I'm still getting used to that.
It's really dumb. It's not worth it. I wouldn't bother.
Yeah.
Definitely not my Snapchat. It's not worth anything.
Right.
But so yeah, that's since I've been on the team, since I've started making those making the weekly videos has been. I've started getting to know them better. Bobby, me and Bobby have had some back and forth. He worked with me to get a little bit more DD representation in my videos. He gave me the banner that hangs up to frame the left side of the screen, and he's gotten me some shirts just to get the D's out there, as he says.
Yeah,
dynamic disc.
Yeah, Bobby reached out to me actually too, because right when DD first released their lineup, I reached out to them and they sent me a box of plastic. It was like a Renegade, Air Renegade, Judges, first run Judges in 2 different plastics, and then the original Truth, which is kind of funny because of the Truth that I reviewed originally, and then the new EMAC retool or whatever basically flew exactly the same, because there was that period in the middle where it kind of drifted away from the original intent, and then they did the retool how it is now. But yeah, so I basically reviewed the same disc twice, more or less. But then a little bit of time had passed, and then Bobby reached out to me, which kind of blew my mind. I just got a message from Bobby, hey, how can we get some DD plastic on your channel? And I'm just like, it's real easy, Bobby. It's a real simple equation to solve. You send me some plastic, and it's done. It's a done deal. So that was really cool. And I know Anthony a little bit too, because we were kind of when he was in the thick of it, doing the reviews and stuff like that. People mistake us all the time because we were the two. I'll get people still I was on Smashbox the other night and somebody's like, "Oh hey, did you move DGN? Did you move to Emporia? And how's it going and stuff?" I'm like, that's not me. That's Anthony. We get kind of mistaken a little bit back and forth. I met him one time. We played Pier Park. He was here during Christmas time. I hadn't played disc golf in a month, and I just absolutely got destroyed by Pier Park with Anthony. It just broke my heart. It was just horrendous. And He was throwing some good lines, though. He definitely beat me by... couldn't even tell you how many strokes he beat me by. I hit like every tree out there that round. So it's kind of funny.
He's got a good shot.
Yeah, he's really...
Anthony's a cool guy.
He's a really cool dude. He's quite smooth as well. He's got deceiving distance because, again, it kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier, where it doesn't look like he's trying very hard, but he's not really. He's just throwing it on a nice smooth line and standing up and doing the work. It was pretty cool when I heard that he was like getting picked up by them. And I remember when that like media thing went out that they were looking for somebody, that popped into my head. I was like, I bet you Anthony's at least in the running for that. And then when he got picked up, that was pretty cool for sure. So
he's got really good editing. The artistic sort of voice that he puts behind all of his videos is really cool.
Yeah.
Just the way he works with the music and the it's crazy. He's really good at it.
Yeah, he was crushing it, man. And back when he was still doing reviews all the time, I mean, the product he was coming out with was far superior to mine in a lot of different respects. I'm just kind of comfortable with the way I do it. I kind of like it. And I also kind of like the fact that they're all basically the same. You know what I mean? If all of a sudden it changed drastically, I'm sure that would be cool, and it could happen eventually, but I've kind of settled into my rhythm at this point where I just kind of like doing what I do. And I don't have a lot of expectations for it, but I'll be the first to admit that Anthony was way better at reviewing discs than I was. He would do a lot of really good field demos and all that kind of stuff. And I think also part of the issue is that I think his form overall is pretty consistent to demonstrate the discs. That's another part of the reason why. I mean, I've talked about it on the channel before, and I'm not going to go into it again. Like, there's a lot of reasons why I don't put throwing footage of myself in the videos. But another one of the reasons is that like I'm always working on my throw too. So a lot of times when I'm out doing field work, I'm testing a disc, and I'm also trying to like dial in my own form and work on certain things and stuff, and the discs are kind of coming along for the ride, and I'm seeing how they react to different things, and that sort of stuff. So it's nice that Anthony was able to throw a very similar kind of consistent throw for a lot of his field demos, which I think helped the quality of the videos for sure. So what does your sponsorship actually entail? You get plastic and all that kind of good stuff?
Yeah, I get yearly stuff, and I get to represent DD at the tournaments. It's kind of I'm sort of exploring that. I'm sort of finding out what it is. It's a really, when people say it's part of a family, that's really what it is. There's a real sense of community there. The people are somebody says, I lost my favorite disc, it's a beat-in trespass, I've had it for this many years, and somebody will comment and say, I've got a trespass that I've had for that long that I don't throw anymore, and they'll send it to them and stuff like that. It's a real great community there.
I think even from the outside looking in, I think that's really apparent, just seeing how everybody interacts in the DD family. It definitely seems like it, and seems like a really great thing to be a part of, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. I'm definitely not really sponsored for my skills. I'm not bad, but I'm 950, so I'm not like 950 rated, so I'm not like crushing everybody. I've won one tournament. I'm not, blowing everybody out of the water, and that's why they're sponsoring me. They really care about the community and growing the sport, like they say.
Sure.
So that shows in them sponsoring me,
right?
Because I don't think I'd be sponsored if it was just for my play.
Right. But yeah, they're looking at the bigger picture, though. You're out there, you're promoting DD, you're helping folks out legitimately, and all that kind of stuff is super valuable to them. I think it's a great pickup both ways. Like I said, kind of at the beginning of this, like your view counts are doing really well. Folks are definitely responding to the content you're putting out there, and I think it's a win-win both for everybody, really. Mm-hmm. Have you been out to the warehouse at all, or are you going to go out there?
I haven't since being on the team. It's only been a couple of months, I think. So I haven't had a chance to drive out there. I think it's 6 or 7 hours away from here.
Oh, that's not too bad.
I don't know. I haven't driven it in a while. I think it might be 8, but it's I've been up there for the GBO, but not since being on the team.
Sure. Anything under 10 is not too bad as far as drives.
Yeah.
When we moved to Oregon, we did the full cross country, like from eastern, because I'm from New York originally, Long Island, New York.
Okay.
Like eastern Long Island, so like all the way out into the jutting out into the Atlantic, and we drove all the way to Portland, which is in the northwest of the Northwest. So it was about as far as it gets. So yeah, anything under 10. I mean, especially now that you're on the team, I'm sure you'll make the trip down there sooner than later.
I've got folks up in Minnesota and Wisconsin, which is 14 hours from here, and we, since we moved down here in 2000, just about every year we've done that trip as a family for like Christmas and stuff. So I'm used to being in the car. I like to try and set records, not by driving fast, but by like only stopping like 3 times on the entire trip.
Oh, really?
My record is driving from Dodge Center, Minnesota, which is towards the southern half, but it's pretty much the middle of nowhere. And I made it to Little Rock in 11 hours even, which if you plug it into maps, it's like 14.
Wow.
So,
wow, that's pretty legit. That's impressive.
It was a good drive for sure.
Nice. That's cool stuff, man. So you're throwing a totally DD bag, and you were already doing that?
I don't have to. I can throw any Trilogy, Trilogy disc I want, but I'm throwing all DD right now.
Nice, that's cool.
Just because that's what works well, and when I narrowed my go-to molds were already DD, and I sort of filled in the holes around it, and then once I I either learned how to work the go-to mold, or I found a really stable Felon, and that replaced a Triple X, or I found a Biodefender that I had beat up, and that replaced a Ballista.
Sure. Kind of working the plastic types and the weights and stuff, you can kind of bridge the gap a little bit sometimes with that kind of thing.
Yeah, it wasn't as hard. And really, what discs you're throwing, it matters to an extent, but it's not the be-all, end-all. Like, if I switched and wanted to throw all West Side discs for some reason, it would take a while to get used to it, but I could make it work.
Sure.
It's not like...
I totally agree. Yeah. I totally agree. I feel like I can make a bag from anything, and I'm sure I'd be fine. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I know enough about the different lines, too, where I wouldn't even have to really test a whole lot of stuff. I feel like I could pretty easily find replacements for what I already have, and kind of go from there. Yeah, that would be interesting. I always thought about that. That would be kind of fun. Like I've heard of people doing like bag swap rounds, where like we switch bags, then we try to do a round. I've always wanted to do that, but a lot of my friends are more casual and they only have like a few discs, so I'm not I'm not gonna throw your beat up like DX Valkyrie and stuff. Like I'm good on that. So.
That was my first disc, a DX Valkyrie.
Yeah, me too.
We were walking through Academy, and we saw golf discs. And we were like, hey, let's go play disc golf.
Nice.
DX Valkyrie and a DX Birdie.
Dude, that's exactly my first 2 discs. I got those.
Really?
Yeah, my wife bought me a yellow, like 165 DX Valkyrie and a red thumb track Birdie from, it's called Big Five. It's like a cheesy sporting goods store out here in Oregon.
Nice.
That's hilarious.
I like it.
That's so funny. I mean,
I lost that disc that night.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We went to the course and played all day, and then we went to a church parking lot because we wanted to throw more, and it had lights, and it was dark out. So throwing back and forth.
Nice.
I threw it in the bushes and never found it.
That's funny. That was one of our old moves back in the day. Before I even knew disc golf was a thing, we would just do like ultimate frisbees or whatever at like a school parking lot under the lights at night and like bum around. Yeah. That was just like something that we did. And then it switched to soccer. I always had a soccer ball with me for a while, and then after moving out to Oregon, tried out disc golf for the first time, and then eventually it just kind of took over, and and here we are. Sweet, man. So we'll probably talk for about an hour or so, unless you had anything else you wanted to get off your chest. We could probably wrap this up relatively soon.
I've got one more point real quick.
Sure.
Lots of people ask me about basically my credentials, like where I learned everything that I'm teaching in the videos.
Right.
They say like they don't say like what gives you the right, but they're basically like, why are you telling me this? Why does this matter? How do you know this and stuff like that?
Sure, which is a valid thing to say.
Yeah.
Luckily, folks don't do that with me because I have no credentials other than throwing.
Well, and you're talking about something. you're talking about something completely objective. It's a disc.
Right. That's true.
And people are generally going to agree about discs, but people tend to get in little arguments about form.
Sure, absolutely.
But the basis of my form came from, I started when I went to school. I graduated in 2013? Yeah, I graduated in 2013. And I went to school, and I would throw discs. They had a football field that wasn't in use anymore, and I would just throw my discs back and forth across that field whenever I could. I ended up having to drop out of school for something not academic. It was they didn't have housing for me, and I had a scholarship that would have paid for housing, and I wasn't going to go thousands of dollars into debt just to live at campus, and I didn't like going to school anyway. So to not go into debt, I had to drop out, but that's whatever. I'm not really worried about that. But since then, I played a lot of disc golf, and most of my knowledge that I have comes from analyzing the core of those videos I was talking about, the drill videos, understanding what they were trying to teach, and relating it to disc golf rather than relating it to what they're talking about. Heavy Disc has a blog, heavydisc.blogspot.com. I don't know if he's still active, but that was really popular back in the day. He's got some incredible videos, some incredible articles that really, they do a lot like my content. They're a little bit longer form, but it really breaks down the mechanics of the shot and stuff like that. And I sort of absorb that, and then I analyze it and then regurgitate it as my content. It's just it's not like I'm stealing content. It's just the same. It's mechanics,
you take in information and then you kind of process it and then you send it back out in another. I mean, I've clearly do a lot of the similar things. I've learned about certain things, and then I have one of my videos where I saw a video by Eric McCabe talking about headwind and tailwind, and I say, like, in the first 2 minutes, like, so this is basically just a complete reiteration, like, of this video I saw by Eric McCabe, but you may not have seen that video, but maybe you'll see this one, you know what I mean? So there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's how anybody learns anything. You build knowledge, you take in information, you kind of process it, and especially if you think you can boil it down a little bit and condense it into more usable facts, and then kind of push that back out and help more people, then that's I'm all about that.
So if I was like citing my sources for like a scientific research paper, if I had to cite my sources, it would probably be Heavy Disc would be a good number of that. Sidewinder 22 on the Disc Golf Course Review. Okay. He drops some serious knowledge. Generally the threads are linked to elsewhere, but if you can find like the threads that he posts there, they are like mind-blowing stuff. You have to read through them 4 or 5 times just to understand what he's talking about. It's next level.
Wow, okay.
Sidewinder 22, those are probably the two biggest people that I sort of I double check things with. Sure. Like if I'm looking at something and I say it looks like this would make sense, I sort of look at that, and I look at slow motion. A lot of it is research I do for myself. If I'm looking at slow motion of people throwing, I'm looking for the same things that the pros do that I don't do or other people don't do. So that's basically where my credentials come from, I guess. You learn it from all these other different sources, and then I put it together, and I've tested it, and I've added to it, and I've taken away some of it, and I've sort of found the core that is what is correct, and then I put that out there.
Nice. I like it, man. And all that sounds really good. Did you spend a lot of time like dissecting your own form on slow motion and that sort of thing? Like, did you ever go through a personal phase of really of doing that?
Yeah, definitely. I've got some videos on my channel of my throw. It's just like usually Danny throw and then a date or something like that. And it's not pretty. Yeah. But if I'm honest, when I was when I got to a certain point, I was like, yeah, I pretty much have perfect form, so I'm not going to worry about my own form anymore. In my head, it was perfect. It was definitely not, and it's funny to think about now. But I was such a big head, right? But
it's like, no, I'm done. I'm good.
Yeah, and I've always been working on it. I've always like been trying to fix one little thing at a time.
Yeah.
It's a road you kind of have to, anyway, for my level of player, you've kind of got to make one change at a time and see how that affects the rest of your throw, and then change everything else. And then
yeah, well, like small course corrections, small changes, of course, over time are just going to be extrapolate. It's just going to extrapolate from there and kind of build. I think it was like somebody was talking about recently. I heard them talking about like if an asteroid was coming in to the atmosphere, potentially just a very small nudge over the time that it would actually take to travel towards us would end up, even the most minuscule nudge of it could end up sending it way off course by the time it actually, traveled that whole distance, So sometimes you just got to start small, and then as you build up, those little things all add up and kind of come together. Nice, man. Well, I really appreciate talking to me tonight, and hopefully it's something we could kind of keep the ball rolling with. Folks that happen to listen to this, leave it down in the comments what you guys think. Maybe we could set up like a question form or something like that. I've been doing some question and answer stuff on my on the Plastic Podcast by myself because I had my 4,000 subscribers giveaway contest. I gave away some stuff, and to enter the contest, you have to submit a question for me. So I've been going through those and working through those. Cool. So yeah, maybe we could even just have people email questions, and we could answer some of those and go from there. So
we could just talk disc golf too. That's great. I was kind of listening to some of your episodes. I'm trying to think, what kind of a podcast is it? Is it like a review podcast? Is it like Smashbox, where it's a call-in podcast? Is it a Q&A podcast? It's just and over listening to a couple episodes now, it's just talking disc golf.
Yeah, it's just talking plastic. Yeah, that's pretty much
I
all
like
it
it,
is.
man.
It's
pretty great.
I kind of started it just because there's things that I wanted to try to talk to people about that aren't necessarily video. It's not like something I'm going to put in a video. There's nothing really visual per se to go along with it. So, if I'm talking about my top 10 courses, I guess I could show pictures of it or something like that. But for the most part, I'm just like, let's just talk about stuff. Let's just ramble about disc golf. It'll be a lot of fun, and I've definitely enjoyed it for sure. So I'll see what I can do trying to trim this together, and we'll go from there.
All right, sounds good.
All right, brother.